This goddamn tweet and the lying. Oh my God, I'm talking too freely, but the change of stories, the lack of preparation, the lying, the holy.
That's President Trump's own sister talking about his lying, and bear in mind she's a retired federal judge with an excellent reputation, and the president has been very complimentary of her in the past. Clearly that respect isn't quite mutual. Trump, as you know, according to the Washington Post, has told more than 20,000 lies or distortions since moving into the White House, and that total rises by the day. I recently spoke with a historian and author who says Donald Trump's lying is both unprecedented and dangerous. Eric Alterman is a professor at Brooklyn College and author of Lying in State: Why Presidents Lie and Why Trump is Worse. Eric, let me begin with a sentiment that I hear a lot these days. I'm sure you do as well. Yes, President Trump lies a lot. Maybe he lies more than any other president, but every president, every politician lies. So that's really more an indictment of the system than it is of any one man, and that makes Trump's lies less significant. How would you respond?
First of all, I would say that Trump probably has lied more than all the other presidents put together. It's a categorically different type of lying than we've ever seen before. Most presidents have told a few lies. Some have told quite a few lies. Most people tell quite a few lies. But Donald Trump is doing something different. Donald Trump is destroying the very idea of truth. He lies so frequently about so many different things. He has no concern at all whether or not he's lying. And he's making it impossible for us to have a shared notion of reality. Hannah Arendt, the philosopher, has identified that in the past as the most important task for a potential dictator. Because if you can't agree on anything, then anything becomes possible.
It's pretty clear that our systems, both inside the government and outside of it, were unprepared for a liar of this volume and of this magnitude. Let me start inside the government, because I can recall a time when a lying president was forced to resign, when dishonest presidents would be called out even by members of their own party or disowned. Now it seems like members of the president's party are helping to cover his hide. So what happened, and is this Trump at fault here? Is this the Republican Party at fault here?
Well, to be honest, I don't think you can recall a time when a lying president had to resign. No president has had to resign because they lied. Presidents have, the only president who resigned is Nixon, and that was because he had committed crimes. He lied about them, but it wasn't a lying. Lyndon Johnson lied at least as much as Nixon, and he didn't run for office, but he wasn't impeached. Wasn't about to be impeached, didn't lie. Franklin Roosevelt lied. John Kennedy lied. Most presidents, as I said, have lied. But again, Trump is doing something different. Lyndon Johnson, who was a terrible liar, he was lying about Vietnam. We were losing the war in Vietnam, and he didn't want to admit it. He had a policy that wasn't working, and so he lied about that. With Trump, literally every single policy is Vietnam. He lies about everything, and everything that he touches is a disaster. When a president lies about something important, he has to deal with the lie. The lie creates its own reality, but the thing that he's lying about still happens. So Trump is lying about the virus, saying everything's great. He's addressing his own lies as if that's reality. In the meantime, we're hitting 200,000 dead, and it's getting worse. So it's a very good example, I think, of why this kind of lying is unacceptable in our society. And yes, I think the Republicans got attached to lying. It began, I would say, with Ronald Reagan, the modern period. Then Newt Gingrich sent it into the stratosphere. And during Obama's presidency, lying became the norm. That's how Trump was able to get the nomination, by lying about Obama's birth. He's a birther, and most Republicans believe it.
You have also been critical of media outlets for how they have handled or mishandled the president's lies. So how should media outlets cover a president who lies with the volume and the magnitude of Donald Trump?
Well, again, there is no president who does that. But yes, I've been very critical of the media, most of the media's coverage of Trump. And that's because even with fact-checking that goes on, and the fact that the Washington Post has identified over 20,000 falsehoods that Trump has told since the beginning of his presidency, they still pass along the lies and then correct them somewhere else in the newspaper, somewhere else on the broadcast, or somewhere else on the internet. They don't correct them when the lie takes place. And so the lie takes on a life of its own. That's one big problem. The second problem is with the the notion of journalistic objectivity. So most journalists, not all, but most journalists think it's enough to quote the lie and then quote an opposing politician, usually a Democrat, saying, that's not true, this is true. The president has a certain amount of authority, and most people are inclined to believe them unless they are corrected with evidence. And journalists seem to think that evidence is biased.
We also have siloed ideologies in our political news coverage these days. We're almost segregated, and somebody can shop for the coverage that they want. In Donald Trump's case, you've got the entire conservative media complex that helps hide his lies, downplays their significance, questions anybody who questions the president. How do you inject the truth into a closed circuit like that doesn't want to hear it?
You can't. You just have to beat them. The conservative media, Fox News, Breitbart, Rush Limbaugh, Bill O'Reilly, Tucker Carlson, they're not interested in truth. They're just interested in helping their side win. And they have no room for truth. Truth is anathema to them because it's not consistent with their ideology. Trump's base, which is the people who watch these shows, is about 35% of the country. They're just about unreachable. They have their own beliefs. There's a certain form of lying called bald-faced lying. It's a philosophical term. And a bald-faced lie is a lie where the person knows they're being lied to. And so they're not really being deceived. They're in on the game. And an awful lot of Trump's base, Fox News viewers especially, they don't mind that Trump is lying because he's lying about people they don't like. He's lying about liberals and Muslims and Jews and LGBT people and immigrants. And that's cool with them. So lying is sort of part of the game that they're involved in. The number of people who believe his lies has got to be very small these days because it's no secret anymore.
Finally, Eric, there's one additional layer to Donald Trump's lies, and that is that he has, perhaps more than any other president I can think of, gotten the government to essentially lie for him as well. We've seen it on something like COVID with the CDC changing its pronouncements, the election with the post office, even the Sharpie hurricane map. Does that make it worse in your mind that he has the government essentially lying for him? Does that bring this to a level that we really haven't seen before?
Well, yeah, this is what, if Hannah Arendt were alive, she would call the origins of totalitarianism. It's not just one man, it's a whole system that becomes untrustworthy. With COVID, it's killing people. It killed people before. It separated families at the border. People died or didn't get treatment in Puerto Rico after the hurricane there. But those stories didn't affect most people. Now we're seeing what it really means. And again, it has to be defeated. We can't live with it.
Eric Alterman is the media columnist for The Nation. He is also the author of Lying in State, Why Presidents Lie and Why Trump is Worse. Eric, thanks so much for a few minutes. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back to wrap up RFL right after this.